Let's turn now to Dr. Jim Wallace. Jim Wallace is an adjunct senior lecturer in international relations at the Pardee School of Global Studies of Boston University. And I'd also like to say I consider him as one of my mentors. So, Jim, we're fortunate to have you in this symposium.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. And thank you to the rest of you for taking the time to join us today. This is a great discussion. Teresa, I really appreciated the perspective that you brought there, because it's things that we, because of our own disciplines, don't always think about when it comes to other people's disciplines. In my essay, I address what I see as one of the barriers to rigorous discussion about religious freedom, particularly when you're talking with leaders from other countries. And that is two words: religious freedom. How do we define those words? Because how we define those words will determine how the discussion goes, in what direction that it takes. Some might see that this is a philosophical discussion that academics like our group have together, and that we sit around and talk about these ideas, but it doesn't have real world implications. Teresa was talking about the real world implications to people in her area. But this has real world implications too. Just one example: the Universal Periodic Review of Human Rights, which happens regularly by the Human Rights Council in Geneva. Every country in the world that's a member of the UN is reviewed on their use of human rights. And one of the things that they review is the issue of religious freedom. But then how religious freedom is defined determines to a large degree how the Human Rights Council rules. And how the Human Rights Council rules then affects how governments view those other countries and either sometimes bring sanctions against them, sometimes there's financial penalties and other actions that happen. So the issue of how you define religious freedom is of utmost importance in the whole discussion of human rights. The problem really began in 1948 with the adoption of the Universal Declaration on Human Rights. And it says everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. But religion is never defined. It's never defined. And this wasn't an accidental oversight. This was an intentional action by the group that put that together. Since then, other international conventions have come about. The 1953 European Convention on Human Rights, the 1966 International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, the 1990 Cairo Declaration on Human Rights in Islam. All of those talk about freedom of religion, but they don't define it. And they don't define what it means and what the scope of it is. In 1993, an effort was made to address this. In addressing the meaning of the precise meaning of religion in Article 18 of the ICCPR. And they said that religion is broadly construed, but they wrote a several page statement on what constitutes religion. And I'll read a piece of it. It says Article 18 protects theistic, non-theistic, and atheistic beliefs, as well as the rights not to profess any religion or belief. The terms belief and religion are to be broadly construed, and it's not limited to the application of traditional religions or to religions or beliefs with institutional characteristics and practices. It goes on and talks about the different dimensions of that. This is the only statement, this general comment 22 is the only statement of any international body that comes close to trying to define what religion means. The complication, and Teresa actually referenced this in her presentation, one of the challenges is that religion is a bundled right. Some would call it a basket of rights, because religious freedom contains freedom of thought, conscience, or belief, freedom of choice, expression, participation in assembly, education and teaching, the right to possess property, the right to have legal status. All of those rights together become a part of freedom of religion. And what happens in international bodies like the Human Rights Commission in Geneva is that when countries are criticized, when countries are challenged on their religious freedom policies and actions, what they tend to do is pick one of these other rights and argue about it rather than actually dealing with the issue of religion. Because again, how do you define religion? Now, the other problem is, how do you define freedom? Because it is conceptualized differently in various constitutions and governmental structures and regulatory laws. Since 1648, in the Peace of Westphalia, after the 30 Years' War of Religion, it established that religion was an internal domestic affair, which gave each nation state the right to define how religion would be handled in that country. And that is the principle, cuius regio eius religio. That statement is what has guided religious discussions in international bodies for many, many years. The problem is that when you talk to a country that is autocratic, maybe dictatorial, oppressive, and you say, do you have freedom of religion? They will say, yeah, we have freedom of religion. But when you dig down, how is it defined? What do they do? And how does that compare with what freedom of religion is defined as in the West? For those of us in the United States, we have our own view, which is separation of church and state. But even with that, the Constitution brings forward a principle of separation of church and state, but the definition of that has been given by the Supreme Court. You have other countries where they have formal religious structures. You have Islamic republics like Pakistan or Mauritania or Iran. You have other countries where they have official religion and where government will give funds to support religions. France has the concept of laïcité. And in laïcité, religion is relegated to the private sector. Yet in France, the government supplies funds to support various religious groups and bodies. And they do that under an aspect of a 1905 law. All of this to say that it becomes a difficult discussion when we talk about what freedom of religion is. In China, they have 5 official religions, but other religions exist. And the question comes, so are only the official religions free, or the non-official ones, which are allowed to exist and operate, are they free? So when we go through all of this, my argument in my essay is that when presenting data on freedom of religion, at least at the beginning, something needs to be said about how the actual investigation defines religion and defines freedom, in order that there is a clear concept and understanding of what the religious freedom is that we're trying to get at.
Thank you, Jim, for these very inspiring remarks.